So the Las Vegas Raiders have officially begun mandatory minicamp, and today we're going to talk about what we've seen in terms of some of the reports that are coming out. There's a ton of videos and clips that have been posted, which we'll also kind of get into. A lot of really good things that are happening. This year, the Raiders have so much potential in that team. You have a top 5 running back, potentially a top 5 tight end. You have some young wide receivers that have a ton of upside, including one that has been standing out, one of the rookies specifically, which we'll talk about in this video. And of course, all of that gets put together with Geno Smith, a guy that most people think is a top 10 to 12 quarterback. Raiders could be really good this year, and I'm excited to get into some of these updates. Let's get right into this, man. So the very first thing that we have to recognize is the Raiders don't have any holdouts. They don't have any contract issues. There's no guy that wants to sit out that's demanding more money. The Raiders have a bunch of guys that are basically fully bought in. Now, we do unfortunately have the one issue with Christian Wilkins' foot. And of course, Christian Wilkins is not participating. So Christian Wilkins is not only not participating, but from the reports I've seen, he was not even inside the building. Now, again, that could mean that just the reporters did not necessarily see him. Maybe he's inside the facilities. But Christian Wilkins, based off the reports, is not at mandatory minicamp. Now, again, foot issue, nothing wrong with that. Hopefully he's able to recover and kind of get back to form. The other guy that I was kind of wanting an update on was Adam Butler, right? Defensive tackle, a guy who had a career year last year. Kind of got compensated for having the year he got. Well-deserved, 100%. Love Adam Butler. Really good dude. But Adam Butler is officially here, right? And he was not present the last 2 open practices, but he is here today, right? So Adam Butler is back out there. He's practicing. In the clip that was posted here, he looks really good, right? Like, you can kind of see him out there. He looks skinny, at least skinnier than what he looked like last year. And he looks fit, right? So Adam Butler is out there. He's looking really good. My understanding with Adam Butler is also that this guy's been putting a lot of work in this offseason. Adam Butler wants to be considered, one of the top tier D tackles, and he's definitely on his way to kind of doing that. And I know he's getting up there in age, but he's been really solid. And last year, the guy was elite, right? He was an elite pass rusher, phenomenal mover. The Raiders are healthy, looks good. Let's get right into some of these clips that are coming out of OTA. So we got this first one here that I want to break down. 35 seconds long. You got multiple players on this one here. You got a run blocking rep there. You got another one here. Once again, it's a run blocking rep. Just a couple more. Jax Powers-Johnson on this one. Let's just break down some of what's happening within some of these reps. So you got one more right there. Let's look at these offensive line reps. There's also some reps at the end of this video towards with the running back, specifically Ashton Jeanty. Also, I will pin the links to all this stuff down in the comments below. I highly suggest you guys go follow these guys. They're putting in really good work. So you got this first one here. You got Big 65. He's essentially going to be reach blocking. And this to me looks like some sort of inside zone concept. The guy that's lined up over here on the defensive side is taking the outside shoulder and he's staying in the outside gap. So the guard here is basically going to push out the defensive lineman. Notice how 65 is sealing this guy outwards. And he's going to keep his butt essentially to the inside. So it's a pretty good job right there. You got this next one, 78. I believe that's Dalton Wagner. Essentially, they just swap bags. You got 65 now that's going to hold the bag. Once again, it looks like it's some sort of reach block. But on this one here specifically, the guy that's lined up to the outside shoulder of Wagner, he's going to actually jump the inside gap. So you can then see Wagner's going to basically seal this guy towards the inside. But again, that's the one cool thing when it comes to zone runs. This is why I think zone runs are the best type of run concepts. If you're a guard or a tackle and you have a guy to your outside, if that guy, jumps the outside gap and he stays in that outside gap, right? Whether it's the B gap if you're the guard or the C gap if you're the tackle. If that guy stays in that outside gap, as a offensive lineman, you don't have to feel like I need to get in front of this guy, right? You can literally just keep pushing him outwards. If he wants to stay in that outside gap, you make contact and you stretch him as far as you can. Because what's going to happen is if the running back doesn't have an immediate outside lane that he can hit, he's going to start to slowly look to the inside. He's going to slowly make his way to the inside. And if you're an offensive lineman where your guy wants to stay in that outside gap and you push him out, the running back's basically just going to run it to the inside of you, right? And that's the beautiful part with these type of concepts. At the same time, if a guy jumps inside and you get in front of him the way Dalton Wagner is on this one, and you basically seal that guy out towards the inside, then the running back has the cutback option right to the outside of you. Obviously, Wagner's a tackle, so, generally speaking, an outside zone run will, probably go to the outside of him anyways. It's kind of hard to tell if these are outside zone or inside zone concepts. To me, for Wagner to reach block, that would tell me it's an outside zone concept. Most of the time on inside zone, the tackles take an inside angle on these guys to the outside shoulder. Unless he's practicing the guard position, which I don't think is the case. You got Jackson Powers-Johnson here. Once again, he's going to do the same exact thing where he's going to be reach blocking. He's going to snap the football, take that step to the right. The guy that's lined up in the one technique of where Powers-Johnson is going to slant across his face. So he's going to hook him off, right? Again, just very, very basic stuff. But, I know not everybody knows exactly kind of what's happening out there. So it's always nice to, kind of break it down a little bit. And here's the rookie, Caleb Rogers. Notice one thing with Caleb Rogers. Notice that he has this right hand into the ground, right? That tells us this guy's practicing at that right guard position. Now, this is also important to recognize because we know the left guard position has been kind of an open battle between Alex Kappa and Dylan Parham. Dylan Parham played right guard last year, but he was kicked over to the left guard position. And the Raiders said, one of you two guys needs to just win this job, right? I might have said Alex Kappa, but it's Dylan Parham and Jordan Meredith that are fighting for the left guard position. All right. And Alex Kappa has been locked in at right guard. And we heard recently that Caleb Rogers was taking first team snaps. Now, I haven't spoken to the guy that is at the Raiders, OTAs and minicamp that I usually speak to. It's one of the reporters that obviously covers the Raiders in person. But I will ask him if Caleb Rogers took any first team snaps today. I'm sure he did because he had in the past. But he is playing that right guard position. So this is something to kind of keep in mind. And he's going to push out Jackson Powers-Johnson since Jackson Powers-Johnson is taking the outside gap or the outside angle. And keep in mind, there's a coach behind Caleb Rogers is telling these guys which gap to stay in. Either stay in that run fit or, cross the face, right? So there you guys have it. That's the O-line drills. You're going to see Ashton Jeanty working on pass pro. Here he is. You're going to see him step up and make some contact with the bags here. Ashton Jeanty looks good, man. I'm really excited to see what this guy can do for the Raiders. I think even as a guy in pass pro, he's going to be a lot better than what people realize, right? We know what he is as a running back, but I think pass catching and pass blocking, I think he'll be a lot better than what people realize. And also, I do like the fact that he uses his hands. I know it's a drill, so you're going to use your hands no matter what, but it just looks natural to me. You never want a guy that's going to put his shoulder into a guy or his helmet into a guy because you can easily get swam over the top. So I like that he's using his hands. Right? It's something that I kind of noticed. Let's switch focus. We got a couple more things that are kind of coming out. Jack Bech, former TCU, current Las Vegas Raider wide receiver. Let me mute that. You guys can see him running just a quick inside route on this one. I'm excited to watch Jack Bech, right? I really think the Raiders hit on both of their wide receivers. There's actually reports coming out, not with Jack Bech, but the other wide receiver we brought in. And I'm going to get into that real quick right here. You guys see that route once again. Apparently, and this is not surprising, but because we've been hearing this already, but apparently Dont'e Thornton is doing it again, right? Apparently this guy's once again doing it again. Where he's looking really, 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 really good. He did this during minicamp. He did this during OTAs, and he's doing it again. He did this in rookie minicamp, right, which is a long time ago. He did it in OTAs, and now he's doing it in basically the voluntary minicamp, which has all of the Las Vegas Raiders players here. But Ryan McFadden, who covers the Raiders for ESPN, said during the red zone period, the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Geno Smith threw a touchdown pass to rookie wide receiver Dont'e Thornton in tight coverage. Thornton has been getting quite a bit of work with the first team unit. So a couple different things right there. First and foremost, Dont'e Thornton apparently beat some veteran guy. We don't know who it is. It was tight coverage, and Geno Smith fit the football into it for Dante Thornton to catch a touchdown. So this guy's finding success during the red zone period, and Dante Thornton's supposed to be a red zone threat, right? He's tall, he's long, he's lengthy. Most corners can't match that size, and he's doing it, right? He's doing it at minicamp. And again, we'll see if it translates when the pads come on, but Thornton's not the only guy that doesn't have pads on, right? So he might be quicker without pads, but so is every other cornerback out there as well, right? Every player is quicker without pads, and this guy's doing it during minicamp where he's beating people and he's catching touchdown passes. I didn't see any reports that Bech caught touchdown passes. He may have. I think he actually caught one from Aiden O'Connell, but that was with the second team unit, not with the first team unit. Thornton's doing it with the first team unit. And of course, the second part of this, of course, is the fact that Thornton has been getting quite a bit of work with the first team. The fact that Bech was out there with the second team unit, right? He was out there with Aiden O'Connell. And Thornton is with the first team. That kind of tells me that Thornton might have leaped Bech a little bit. And again, none of this stuff is final, right? So just kind of keep it, with a grain of salt. But to me, the fact that Dante Thornton is out there, right, and he's having success, and he's out there working with Geno Smith, and this is team period, right? First team offense, first team defense. This is the point where if you're a good football player, you're gonna flash a little bit. You're gonna show out a little bit. And Thornton's looking really, really good right now, and he's the rookie that's kind of stepping up for the Raiders. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but there's a real chance within like 2 years, Thornton could be like, our best wide receiver. Easily could be our best wide receiver. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like, what if Thornton ends up better than like Brock Bowers, right? Like, what if he's like in the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase category? And I'm not saying it's going to happen 100% or whatever, but like, what if it does, right? And to me, it's just crazy to think because we don't think that this guy could be that good, but what if it happens? I think about how good the Las Vegas Raiders could be if Thornton, is maybe not that good, but like even if he's like a top 20 wide receiver, right? If he ends up as good as someone like Puka Nacua, for example, right? Or he has that type of impact. And there's nothing that says he can't, right? Remember, when he was at Tennessee, this guy averaged like 30 yards a catch, right? Like you'd catch a ball and bam, he's gone. And some people will say, hey, that's because of how Tennessee's offense spaces their offense. And I kind of agree with that. But the knock on Thornton was that he didn't run all the routes, but that doesn't mean he can't, right? It doesn't mean he can't beat guys. He can't get open. So I love the fact that this guy's finding success this early on. And I'm excited to see what he develops into. I really like Bech. I think Bech will be really good as well. And if Thornton's just as good as Bech, like the Raiders are going to be in a really, really good spot for a really, really long time. So same update here. Perfect placement for Geno Smith, finding Thornton for a touchdown with 2 defensive backs draped all over him. This offseason, Thornton has been one of, if not the most impressive rookie for the Raiders. That right there, again, same exact play, right? Just a different reporter that's putting this out there. Levi Edwards is telling us that there were essentially 2 defensive backs draped all over him, which makes it a little bit more impressive. And then Levi Edwards' opinion is that this offseason, Thornton has been one of, if not the most impressive rookies for the Raiders. And I'm not surprised that we're hearing this. The guy that I speak to basically said the same thing, right? He said that Thornton's been really, really, really impressive. He's been the guy that's been kind of standing out. This feels a little bit different to me, right? Usually when we hear these type of reports, I don't 100% buy into them, right? Because it is OTAs, it is minicamp. There's not pads, right? Yeah, they have a helmet, but like it's not the same as like live football. But again, the fact that these are the reports we're hearing really does have me fired up. We'll see what this guy develops into. We got a couple more updates that I want to talk about. Kolton Miller did his presser today. If you guys did not listen to the pressers, go check them out. I think as of this recording, they weren't actually officially over. I think our special teams coach was speaking. But the Raiders left tackle Kolton Miller, who is entering his final year of his deal, said that he wants to be a Raider for life. Kolton Miller said he does not want to go anywhere else. To me, this is exactly what you want to hear from arguably a top 10 tackle in the NFL. Kolton Miller, to me, is there anyone that's been with the Raiders longer than Kolton Miller? I don't know, right? I don't know. He might be the longest tenured Raider right now. And the thing with Kolton Miller is this guy has, he came into the NFL. Raider fans are screaming to get rid of this guy, like after his first, and even after his second year. Some people are still screaming, get rid of this guy. He's garbage, he's bad, he's trash. And not only did he continue to develop slowly, but once he became like a top 10 to 15 tackle, he could have said, hey, I want $25 million, but he didn't say that. In fact, he took a lot less money on his last contract, where I don't even think he's a top 15 paid tackle this year, right? And he's definitely a top 15 tackle in the NFL. And the guy wants to retire with the Las Vegas Raiders. There's no reason why the Raiders should not pay this guy, right? If it's just a 3-year extension, right? He has 1 year. You add 3 more years on top of that. Total of 4 years. In my opinion, I think Kolton Miller is one of those guys that you want to bring back. Also, keep this in mind, Geno Smith, from what we've seen with the Seahawks, is a lot better when he has a good offensive line versus when he doesn't have a good offensive line. Right, we saw that while he's with the Seahawks in his first year, they had a really, really good offensive line. They had a bunch of guys that have kind of been there for a couple of years. His second year, they went out and drafted a left tackle, drafted a right tackle. It kind of started trending downwards. And then in his third year as a starter for the Seahawks, it wasn't that good, right? He had his worst season last year with the Seahawks. And I think a big part of that was not only did they kind of revamp that offensive line, but then the guys they brought in were also hurt. And just kind of bringing it back to the Raiders, if you want to have Geno Smith have success, lock in Kolton Miller, man. Lock the guy in that's been here for a number of years. Lock this guy in. Make sure he stays here and kind of finishes his career out. And I understand we have Charles Grant. I understand we have DJ Glaze, but that's not guaranteed to all work out. Both of those guys can bust out, right? There was a time when people were like, hey, Darren Munford's a franchise tackle. And we saw how that went, right? Literally in the year that he was given, it's your year to prove it. He ended up not proving it, right? And I'm not saying DJ Glaze is the same exact thing as Darren Munford, but nothing's ever guaranteed. And at a premium position like offensive tackle, I think it's very, very important that at least one of your 2 offensive tackles is locked in. They're top 10 to 15 guys. Kolton Miller needs to 100% be brought back, so we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully John Spytek gets it done. There's another update that kind of came out. This one was really interesting because I didn't realize it was this bad for Jakorian Bennett. But Jakorian Bennett, who also spoke after practice, said that he was playing through a torn labrum last year before deciding to have season-ending surgery. He said he dealt with a shoulder issue since college. Jakorian Bennett also said that he's, hasn't had 2 healthy shoulders since college, right, essentially. And Jakorian Bennett's been basically saying that he hasn't been fully healthy even in the course of his NFL career, right? He's had the torn labrum. What's interesting is Jakorian Bennett did have surgery. And again, this was the same thing that Kolton Miller had. Kolton Miller had surgery. He struggled a little bit early on last season, but he finished the season really, really, really well. And I do hope with the guy like Jakorian Bennett, that same thing kind of happens where the labrum injury is not something that is to be messed around with. It does impact you, especially given that Jakorian Bennett, if he wants to get his arm fully in there to swat a pass or extend out to catch or potentially press, right? If he's playing press coverage, those things require you to have a healthy shoulder. And if you're in pain, if it's not healthy, he even went out there and said that he had popped his shoulder back into place 5 or 6 times last year. That's going to impact how a player ultimately plays. And again, he got the surgery, so I think within the next couple of weeks to months, he'll be fully healthy. And I look forward to that time because I think the Raiders secondary could be a lot better than what people realize. Obviously, Jakorian Bennett is getting healthy, and he is running with the 2s right now. But I think when he's fully healthy, when camp comes around, he starts hitting. He gets back into that position where he's able to hit people and be fully healthy. I think he could potentially get back to form, start for the Raiders, and have a Pro Bowl caliber season, right? And then of course, it's not just Jakorian Bennett. Jesse Merrick said that Jeremy Chinn really is a chess piece for Patrick Graham in this Raiders defense. Now, I had spoken to the guy that is at the Raiders OTAs and minicamp in the past, and the one thing that he said that he realized right away with Jeremy Chinn is this guy's kind of playing all over the place. And on one play, he'll be lined up as a split safety. He'll come into the box. Then on the next play, he'll line up literally as a slot cornerback, and then he'll blitz off the edge, or he'll line up as an edge player, right? He was saying that it looks like the Raiders will have 4 or 5 defensive linemen, and then this guy lines up right outside of that. If there's a tight end there, if it's on the weak side, he'll line up on the line of scrimmage. And he's seen him doing just multiple different things. And this is the same thing Jeremy Chinn did last year with the Washington Commanders. If you guys remember, Dan Quinn, the head coach of the Washington Commanders, he runs the entire defense over there for that team. Dan Quinn coached under Pete Carroll years back, right? 2011, 12, 13. Dan Quinn worked under Pete Carroll. And Dan Quinn utilized Jeremy Chinn last year in multiple spots. The Raiders brought in Jeremy Chinn because he's a scheme fit, right? He had success with Dan Quinn. He will have success with Pete Carroll as well. In fact, Dan Quinn runs the cover 3 scheme a lot more than any of the other coaches that have coached under Pete Carroll, right? Like Robert Saleh does not run the cover 3 scheme as much as Dan Quinn does, right? As Pete Carroll does. And Pete and Dan both run that scheme a lot. So I think Jeremy Chinn being a quote-unquote chess piece, I believe it, man. I think he's going to have a lot of success for the Raiders. And again, I think guys like Jakorian Bennett, guys like Jeremy Chinn, they're going to come back to the Raiders this season. They're going to come and fit into the scheme, and I think they're going to have a lot of success, right? I really, really do think the Raiders defense is going to be so much better than what people realize. And also, don't overlook the fact that Patrick Graham, even though this is going to be a Pete Carroll scheme, Patrick Graham, a lot of the verbiage and the language he's going to put into the Pete Carroll scheme is going to be different than anything we've seen in the past, right? Yes, Pete Carroll might love to run cover 3, but there's going to be elements of like that Patrick Graham, Bill Belichick, right? Because Patrick Graham learned directly from Bill Belichick. There's going to be a lot of those elements in it, so it might not be like cover 3 100% of the time. It might be cover 2 that rotates into cover 3. It might be cover 3 that rotates into Tampa 2, right? Like, to me, what we're going to see with the Raiders this year is going to look a lot different because we've never seen Patrick Graham and like that Bill Belichick-ish where you're mixing coverages, where you're simulating pressure. We've never really seen that type of coordinator paired up with Pete Carroll, and we're going to get to see that for the first time this season, right? So I'm really, really excited to see what the Raiders defense can actually do. About 2 years ago, I said I think the Raiders are going to have a really, really good defense. And they ended up having an elite defense, right? In the 2023 NFL season, not only did they have Patrick Graham back for multiple years, but they had all the guys kind of returning. Malcolm Koonce, I thought he would break out. It did take that defense until Josh McDaniels got fired. But even for the entire season, even with Josh McDaniels, even with all the turnovers we had under Jimmy G, the Raiders are still the 9th best defense over the course of the entire season. And from the time Antonio Pierce took over, they're the #1 defense, right? I think that defense coming into this, I think, there's still a lot of things from that year that can come into this year where the Raiders can actually have success. And I know it's not the same players, but the scheme's the same. Some of the players that were elite are still the same, right? You still have Maxx Crosby. You still have Malcolm Koonce. You still have Adam Butler. And I think those were 3 of the big ones from that 2023 defense. And, of course, the secondary is a little bit different. The linebackers are a little bit different. But the coach is still the same. It might be a little bit of a different scheme, but I'm excited for it, man. I really do think the Raiders are going to be a lot better this year. As we go over the next couple of years, the Raiders are going to win some playoff games, man. I can just feel it. Let me know what you guys think, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time with another video.